This program is presented by the Associated General Contractors of America.
In most of your everyday activity, you don't need to think too much about electricity. Generally, you know where to plug in to get power, and you know a few rules to follow. You keep all circuit connections away from conductive material, like water, and you know better than to touch live wires with metal tools, or your hands, or any other material. And in your home, you probably know enough to turn off the power to any circuit on which you may ever need to work. But on many construction sites, there are places where there is extremely high voltage available. High voltage is roughly defined as more than 600 volts. Do you know where those places are on your job site? Do you remember the last time you really noticed a sign that said high voltage? I'm sure I don't have to tell you that where accidents occur involving high voltage, the stakes are extremely high. In fact, even with basic 120 volt circuits, like the kind you have in your home, there is the possibility of electrocution. Crane operators know that one of the primary dangers that they must avoid involves high voltage wires. It may be useful to have the power company mark overhead lines to make them more visible to those working around them. It helps to have a qualified signal person work in tandem with the crane operator, making sure to warn him whenever the boom is approaching the lines. OSHA regulations require there to be an absolute minimum distance of at least 10 feet between the wires and any part of the crane or load. You must use special caution in situations where overhead lines have long spans. These tend to swing laterally and contact can occur. The same goes for any other piece of equipment, such as a dump truck. One other person should be assigned whose sole responsibility is to watch out for the electrical hazard. Also, when carrying a ladder, use extreme caution to keep away from overhead lines. We've talked about the hazards of contacting a high voltage wire overhead, but cutting a buried electrical cable with a backhoe, for instance, can be as dangerous as impacting an overhead line with a crane. Before you dig, you must contact your underground utility locator service. They'll come out and mark a line on the ground where the underground lines are. They have a 3-foot margin of error, so you should stay at least 5 feet on either side of these lines when you're digging. Of course, we hope that we never have to deal with the dangers involved with high voltage electricity, but in the event that the crane or load makes contact with an energized circuit, don't panic. The fact is, if you've had time to realize what happened, then you're safe where you are. If you're in a truck or a crane, remain inside the cab. Instruct all other personnel to keep away from the machine, rope, or load. The complete machine and even the ground around it will be hot. Try to disengage the contact point. Move the boom away from the line or lower the bed of the truck, whatever it is. Do it on your own without having anyone else approach the machine. If you can't remedy the situation, remain inside the machine until authorities can de-energize the circuit and confirm that conditions are safe. Remember, it may be useful to have the power company mark overhead lines to make them more visible. Keep a safe distance between your equipment and the wires, a minimum of at least 10 feet. Always use inspected and approved equipment. Have the underground utility locator service mark the place to avoid for underground wires. And if you do contact a wire, don't panic. Stay in the cab and try to disengage the contact point. Obviously, we can't demonstrate how powerful and dangerous these high voltage wires can be. And I know that you know that the voltage there is strong enough to kill. So take these few key precautions. Make sure you and your coworkers are safe around high voltage.